Okay, my name is Mark O'Keefe. I'm executive editor for Herald-Standard.com. Welcome to this Herald-Standard.com editorial board meeting with candidates for Uniontown Mayor. We have Ed Fike, the incumbent, who's running on the Democratic ticket. We have a Republican challenger, Russ Rhodes. And we'll give each of the candidates 3 minutes to make an opening statement and then 2 minutes to answer the question. So we'll go alphabetically. So we'll start out with Mayor Fike. You have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ed Fike. I'm mayor of the city of Uniontown. I've resided in the city of Uniontown for more than 50 years. I have 5 daughters and 4 grandchildren. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the editorial board of the Herald-Standard for this invitation to discuss and share with you our accomplishments and our goals. 4 years ago, we were faced with many tough challenges. Through discipline and financial planning, we set out to change the direction of the city. We took a city that was financially distressed, and through many difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions, we transformed the course of the future of the city. We had to make changes that were not necessarily popular, but they were the right thing to do. During my term in office, it was necessary to make spending cuts and increase taxes in order to balance the budget. We accomplished that by the end of my second year in office without any outside financial assistance. It took a lot of courage to protect the city's priorities during difficult times, what I call the courage of integrity. I was always taught that the highest courage was to dare to be yourself in the face of adversities, choosing right over wrong, ethics over convenience, or truth over popularity. These, my friends, are the things that measure you and me as a person. As a business person, I'm certainly concerned about the bottom line. I knew how to crunch the numbers, and with help from the employees in City Hall, we certainly made a difference. As a result of hard work, as mayor, I was awarded the Distinguished Public Service Award, which is intended to recognize absolute total dedication to further the economic revitalization of Uniontown. It's an award that is given very sparingly. And back in the 1915, the beginning of Uniontown, no other mayor has ever received this award. From the mayor of Harrisburg, with whom I didn't know. You don't have to be a show horse to win this. You have to be a workhorse. I can still remember the time we only had $15,000 in the general fund, and we were facing a payroll of $92,000. Tell me that's not a nightmare. We didn't roll over and play dead, but we met the challenge head on. That's exactly what I've done for 50 years as a business person. I'm steadfast in my commitments to the office of mayor of the city of Uniontown, which I fulfilled during my term in office. 4 years ago, I made these promises, and with help from the city employees and citizens, I was able to accomplish the following: continue revitalization citywide, improve code enforcement, better parks and recreations, reducing drugs and fighting crime, marketing tourism, accessibility to all. The marketing tourism can be proved by the Italian Festival. That's second to none. I plan to continue to apply my skills as a business person to help improve the quality of life for our citizens and for the city of Uniontown. And with that, I say thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rhodes?
Thank you very much for having me here this evening. 4 years ago, I threw my hat into the ring and ran for mayor. I ran on the idea that through marketing, good government, and solid leadership, Uniontown could once again thrive and be a community where families and businesses choose to locate. I'm running again because today, more than ever, it's time. It's time to address our declining tax base by aggressively marketing Uniontown. We need to reach out to startup companies so that they might consider and ultimately move to Uniontown. We need to capitalize on regional tourist attractions and encourage more events downtown like the Italian Heritage Festival. It's time to develop a city website for use as a marketing and a communication tool, giving residents easy access to information and services they need, such as current budget figures, forms and permit applications, and details about meetings and events. It's time for fiscal responsibility. Bad decisions created burdens on Uniontown's already overburdened taxpayers. Taxes were increased, followed by layoffs, yet others enjoyed raises. Contracts were broken, leading to lawsuits which cost the city money. As we look for ways to control spending, we should look to Pennsylvania's Department of Community and Economic Development. Resources are there, free of charge. We should use them. It's time to return government to the people by holding council meetings at a time convenient for citizens and not just council members, by allowing citizens the right to speak at council meetings, and by listening with respect. It's time for real neighborhood revitalization. It's not enough to tear down dilapidated structures. We need a strategy to return vacant properties to the tax rolls instead of breeding weed and garbage. We need to concentrate on our parks and playgrounds, creating programs and activities for our youth so they can gather and play in safe environments. Through grants and private donations, I want to pursue building a recreation center as another safe outlet for our residents. And finally, it's time to address public safety. Uniontown will soon have 23 police officers, with 5 paid through grants or other arrangements. I applaud Chief Cox for going after the grants necessary for a top-notch department. However, grants run out. Our challenge is to find ways to retain those officers after their salaries become the city's responsibility. South Union Township asked its residents if they want to contract with an existing police force. The door has been opened, and I will gladly work with Chief Cox and the South Union Township supervisors to develop a plan that works for South Union while protecting the needs of Uniontown residents. It's time for a mayor with vision. It's time for a mayor with who works for the betterment of all. It's time for a mayor who knows that Uniontown can be better than it is and will work to make it happen. That is why I'm here today asking you and the voters of Uniontown to support me on Election Day.
Okay, we'll start the questions. I'll take the first question. Uniontown has suffered a population loss of 16.5%, 2,050 people in the 2000s, going from 12,422 people in 2001 to 2,372 last year. That's double the percentage of Fayette County's population decline of 8.1% during the same period, and Fayette County had one of the biggest population losses percentage-wise in Pennsylvania. What do you think is the biggest reason for the steep population drop, and what can be done to turn things around? We'll start with Mr. Rhodes.
Well, I think there's several factors that play into it. One, obviously, is the economy, the lack of jobs in this area. As mayor, I want to go out and, as I mentioned in my opening statement, to market to startup companies to come to Uniontown. Let's start bringing some jobs here through that avenue. It might only be 1, it might be 2, it might be 10, who knows? It's a start. We need to start working to bring in other companies. I like to poke around the website, the web, and I recently read where a brewery out west was looking to expand to the east. They wanted to increase their presence out on the East Coast. None of our leaders in this area pursued that brewery to bring those jobs here. This is something that I want to do. I think another problem is lack of affordable, well, we have plenty of affordable housing, but unfortunately it's because of declining neighborhoods. Families don't want to come here, or they want to leave. As I've been knocking on doors, I talked to several people that have said they want to sell because they're tired of living next door to a house that is populated by rats and pigeons, and nothing is ever done when while they're trying to keep their home up. So I think basically those are the 2 of the biggest reasons for the population decline for not just Fayette County but for Uniontown.
Okay, Mayor Fay.
First of all, I don't believe that the census count is even close right. I have interviewed with probably more than 100 or 150 people that told me they never even filled out a census. I don't think our census has dropped one person since I took office 4 years ago. And as far as selling, I'll take you to any home in Uniontown. And if you move out, somebody else moves in. I went to buy Jay Leff's home over at Linden Place, 10 Linden Place. I was very interested in it. I was going to pay $100,000 for it. I thought that's what it was worth. Lo and behold, there was 3 or 4 people outbid me. They paid $145,000 for it. Now, the same way at the Johnson Funeral Home. I went there to buy that for my daughter, who has a Torchlight restaurant, and which PennDOT is trying to deal with them to take it now. I want to buy that and put a restaurant in there for her. I went to $125,000. Unfortunately, I was still the low bidder. It brought $165,000. All I was able to buy was the drapes. Now, talking about blighted, we have torn down over 100 properties since I've been mayor. I have been involved physically in a piece of machinery on 75% of it. So I know what's going on. And we have brought 30 new homes into here. We brought Senior Life. We built a new home down on Galton Avenue. We're building 10 on Maple Street. It don't look to me like, the proof's in the pudding. So that's my answer to that. I wish I had 10 minutes.
Okay, Bill, you want to take
Sorry, I address it to the mayor?
Yeah.
Second question is, a federal SAFER grant is covering the wages and some of the benefits of 6 or 7 firefighters. Should the city keep all 11 firemen on the payroll after the grant expires in 3 years?
Well, again, that's questionable. I'd like to see us be able, as we keep building our tax base, to be able to keep a full complement. Now, that is a department where they can encourage volunteers. Not to mention, we have 4 or 5 people in the drop program. Within the next 2 or 3 years, they'll be stepping down. And that'll be the time to make that decision. I believe, in my own opinion, that we'll be able to keep our fire department if we can keep the budget at around $1 million.
Okay, Mr. Rose.
Yes. If at all possible, absolutely, I want to keep the fire department. And I want to keep the fire department fully staffed. I know there's the arguments out there for volunteer. The problem I see with going to a volunteer force within the city is you have houses that are literally 10 feet apart. When a fire doubles in size every minute, and you have a house, another structure, predominantly out of wood, 10 feet away, how quickly is it going to be until that first fire now jumps to the second fire? When you have a paid force, the response is a lot quicker as opposed to a volunteer force. I'm not taking away from volunteers. They provide a valuable service for our communities. However, in the case of Uniontown, paid fire, absolutely, if there's any way possible to keep the fire department fully intact, fully staffed, that's the way I wish to go.
Okay. Okay, Jerome, you want to ask question number 3?
I will start with Mr. Rhodes.
Yes. Yeah.
Are building and property code complaints and violations being handled sufficiently with a part-time code enforcement officer, or is a full-time officer needed?
I believe we need to have more of a full-time code enforcement officer. Used to be we had a code enforcement officer on staff. He was tasked. He was part of the fire department, tasked with the additional duties of code enforcement. I would like to see us get back to that. We no longer have that. As I had mentioned earlier, homes burned out, occupied by pigeons, rats. No, they're not being enforced as far as what needs to be done. I want to see the city revisit the landlord ordinance that was passed by the previous administration and then rescinded by the current administration. I want to revisit that so we can really take a bite out of the homes that need to be addressed, dressing them up, getting rid of those that really are not suitable for human habitation anymore, and work to turn around and start bringing back some viable taxable properties. I know the mayor has talked about he's torn down 100 homes. That's all well and good, but the problem within the city, because of new codes and setbacks, you can't build on a city property anymore. It takes essentially 2 pieces of property to do that. For those places where we have 2 lots side by side, yes, let's work towards work towards getting a new structure built on there. For those where it's just 1, I would like to see an offer made to the homeowners on either side of that property to come on in at a very low price, buy this property, split it, increase your acreage, increase your yard, put that property back on the tax rolls. Those people, the new owners, will then keep up on that property instead of having a vacant lot that has weeds and garbage and miscellaneous building material that wasn't picked up during the demolition stage.
Okay. Mayor Fike?
What was that question?
I'll repeat it. Are building and property code complaints and violations being handled sufficiently with a part-time code enforcement officer, or is a full-time officer needed?
Truthfully, we have the equivalence of a full-time officer. We hired Melvin Henderson to work. We've also got Mark Pasquale, who's one of the constables that work on it, and our building code official is K2. They do a terrific job. They're busy every day out taking care of the blight and the properties. Like I said, in 4 years, are we ever going to be able to tear down more than 100 houses? We have taken blighted property that was of no value whatsoever and put them back on the tax roll. Now, the police have the right now to go out anytime they address any crime and cite any blight or anything that they see that's inappropriate. So right now, I think we're really on the right track. If another code officer was needed, I'm sure we'd certainly consider hiring him.
Okay. Terry, you want to take next question?
No. Ooh. Sorry about that.
Well, you get the first question, Mayor Fike.
I get the first.
You get this one.
All right.
Okay, McMillan Engineering and K2 Engineering are handling zoning for the city. Are you okay with this setup? And do you think they're doing a good job? And what, if any, improvements do you think could be made?
Absolutely, I think they're doing a terrific job. And they're both not the engineers. They both carry that title. McMillan is our engineer. K2 is our building code official. Of course, they work hand in hand. And McMillan is one of the most decent people that you could ever work with, as well as over on his building code. But I don't have a problem with either one of them. I'm sure that we could all improve. Even me. I think I could improve too. But by saying that, I just think that we have the building code at hand. And we have a zoning board. We have a planning board. Nobody can step over the other one's feet. And if they turn something down, mayor and council would have a very hard time of overriding that. And we try to take the advice of the professional, which in this case is Terry McMillan and John Over.
Mr. Rhodes?
I have no problems with McMillan Engineering. They're a fine firm. My problem, and I don't have anything against K2 Engineering. Unfortunately, with K2 Engineering, that's an outsource. That's an expense that the city can keep in-house. by re-implementing, by putting back into force its own code enforcement officer. We have the personnel within the fire department already that are qualified and have the certificates and the training needed to run and operate a code enforcement office. Why should we pay K2 Engineering to go out and do that job when we can keep that in-house?
Thank you.
By the way, zoning doesn't cost us anything.
It doesn't?
No, it's the permits that he charges for.
Okay.
They get 75%. The city gets 25% of that.
Okay.
So then I come back to the city gets 100% of the permits.
Okay. I'll take the next question. Do you think Uniontown needs a city manager? We'll start with
Yes.
Rose.
Yes. 4 years ago, I was in favor of hiring a city manager. I am still in favor of a city manager to this day. City manager has gone to school to be trained in the ways of small government, dealing with state bureaucracies, federal bureaucracies. I believe a city manager is a way to go to help the city leaders in searching out waste, searching out new revenue streams, and guiding the mayor and council. Mayor and council obviously would have the final word, but a city manager would be there to help operate the day-to-day operations, and I believe that's the way to go.
Would you repeat that question?
Do you think Uniontown needs a city manager?
Well, I've been approached by a lot of people telling me that my daughter should be the city manager. She has the qualifications and the background to be anything she wanted to be. But we have a Main Street manager. We have a Gallatin Avenue manager, which is an Elm Street manager. We have a mayor that's been a business person for 50 years. The same business. We have 4 councilmen, two in which are educators. We have a solicitor with a law degree. We have a firm that's second to none. You mean to tell me that you don't think all 8 of these brains are equal to 1? Or do we go out and spend $75,000 or $80,000 to get a city manager that cannot do any more than we can? Not that I haven't thought about this. If we'd had a city manager, a lot of the unpopular things that I had to take blame for would have been in his lap. But I faced it head on, like I've always done. So I would have to say that that's under consideration.
Council did approve some kind of study of it or whatever. Weren't you guys looking into it or something?
Yes, we had talked about this. We have never really...
What's the budget?
What?
We didn't have it in this year's budget.
No, that's right. We didn't have it in the budget either. But we have talked about it, and the thing of it is, it'd make it a whole lot easier on me.
Mm-hmm. But
I could kiss babies and make friends and do nothing else if we could have a city manager.
So basically, it just is. It's a matter of expenses, or you just, or even if you felt you had money, you still wouldn't be.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think if we was in High Clover, that I would be in favor of that. But keep in mind, there's 5 people there. I'm not the first vote. I'm the last one. So it would have to be sold to all 4 councilmen. And if they was in favor of it, and we had the finances, like I said, it'd be like water running downhill for me.
Okay. Bill, you want to take...
Yes. It would be for the mayor. Would you favor a regional police force and or a regional fire department?
Absolutely 110%. Yes. If South Union and North Union and the city would go together, we're the county seat. They have no paid fire company and they have no paid police department. Now, the burden's all on the city. it would make it much, much simpler if we could regionalize. The time's coming. He's a retired state policeman. Her husband's a state policeman. They both know, with the state's economic downturn, they're not going to continue to cover these areas without being paid. And it's my opinion, the study that I saw where they said they'll cost each family $150 if the state continues to have to cover these townships and the other areas. Whereas if we had a regional force, it would give the state police more time to cover the areas they have to cover, and it would make it better for the city. We could have 40 policemen at a real decent wage, and that would create protection for the townships as well as the city. Yes, I agree, we need a regionalized police department, and fair.
Have you talked with South or North Union?
We have met with them. There's only one problem with this. You have 3 township supervisors, and I'm sure that they're concerned about what would that take from us. Would we lose our power? That would be the only thing I believe that would stand in the way. But we have talked to them, and this is something that the city would certainly like to do. And it would be better for the taxpayers also. Their cost would be less, the budget would be less. So my answer is yes to that.
Okay, Mr. Rhodes.
Yes, absolutely. I touched on that in my opening statement as far as the survey that South Union Township supervisors sent out to the residents of South Union Township. I don't know what the results of that are. I don't even know if South Union has compiled all of that yet. But one of them was contracting out to an existing force, the obvious here being the Uniontown Police Department. I think through negotiations and really sitting down with the chief, with the 3 supervisors, with the mayor, getting down to the nuts and bolts and things, seeing what it is South Union is really looking for as far as police coverage. Do they just want somebody that's going to be able to call when somebody finds that their house has been broken into? Do they want officers patrolling their streets? So it really depends on what South Union is looking for, what kind of monetary arrangements we can come to. Obviously, those monetary arrangements would benefit the citizens of Uniontown as taking the burden of those officers' payroll off of their backs and shifting some of that onto South Union. As I mentioned, we've got, in the near future, 5 officers will be paid through either grants or another arrangement, that other arrangement being I'm going to call it the pass-through payment from the county to the city to reimburse for the 2 officers at the booking department. Grants go away. What happens also if the county decides they no longer want to do that? We now have to pay for those officers as well. So regionalization is really a way, I do believe, to help alleviate some of those concerns. Fire department, absolutely regionalization as well. Working again with all the different surrounding fire companies to develop some kind of rotation maybe of paid firemen to sit in the different firehouses to again help with that quick response time.
I might add that if the money run out on the booking center, it's doing better than $7,000 a month already. And it will certainly sustain. It'll take care of itself, whether there's a grant or whether there isn't. So it's a plus.
Have you had a chance to talk to any South Union or North Union or any other local officials?
No, sir, I have not had that opportunity to do so.
While we're still on this topic, I spent a goodly portion of my career as a senior planner in Allegheny County. There are no municipalities in Allegheny County that do not have police protection. They all have police protection, their own paid police protection. I think the residents in North and South Union have been kind of complacent because their taxes have been lower.
Sure.
But maybe this issue will force the issue with the state relinquishing protection for the state police.
Well, sometimes they don't like to play Big Brother. I'm sure the city years ago paid Big Brother to the townships. And after all the building and all the income from all the property and the taxes, it's just like if somebody lives next to you that's got a Cadillac, it don't mean he'd have to buy yours. So you have to get them to come together with us, and I think that we could be much stronger if we were all together.
Okay, Jerome, you want to ask the next question there?
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
This is a two-parter. City taxes are considerably higher than those of neighboring municipalities. Question one, do you think city taxes will ever be comparable to them? And the second part, is there anything the city can do to lower taxes without cutting services?
Well, according to this paper's own editorial back in December of 2010, a house appraised at $100,000 in the city of Uniontown will pay over $1,200 in taxes. South Union $60, North Union $44. No, we're never going to be at that point where it's dollar for dollar. Certainly we can work towards bringing those numbers down and a little more affordable. Some things I would like to look at is in the city, there of accessible properties, 6% are nonprofits or governmental buildings, which would account for 25% of the assessed values within the city limits. So those are properties not paying any taxes into the city. I think it's wise to investigate payment in lieu of taxes. It's done in other municipalities. You have the hospital that benefits from our police department and our fire department. You have the county building that again also benefits from our fire department and our police department, and yet we see no revenue from them. So I think we need to investigate that possibility, which would in turn lower our tax rate to the citizens. We need to look at ways to cut waste in our budget. Two things that pop into mind right now, and I am not taking away from the police department when I say this. This is just how the budget
30
was.
seconds.
2010, they were budgeted at $1.6 million, actually came in under to the tune of $56,000. Chief Cox, thank you, that's what you're supposed to do. 2011, the police department is now budgeted at $1.75 million. I can understand giving that $56,000 back to the police department. I have troubles understanding why the other $115,000 went there as well. Also in the controller's office, there was a line item in 2010 for a consultant at $3,500. In 2011, that same consultant is listed at $14,000. John Cupp is a lawyer and a CPA. What does he need a consultant for? Things like that is what we can do to lower our tax rate, to bring that down closer to what South Union and North Union are paying, to make the city more attractive to residents to come in.
By the way, John Cupp gets $40 every 2 weeks. What's the question again?
City taxes are considerably higher in the city of Uniontown than those of neighboring municipalities. Do you think city taxes will ever be comparable to the neighboring municipalities? And is there anything the city can do to lower taxes without cutting services?
Well, again, you get back to regionalization. That would make a whole lot of difference. And I do think, as we continue to build, the redevelopment authority, the next batch of houses we build, we're going to try to be our own developer. What we're going to do is sub out just what a developer does and make that subcontract money. We have 28 homes that they're looking at right now. They're going to build a townhouse up on Lincoln View. We've worked with Pearl Group once. When I took office, we'd give that property away. Right now, we've been offered $50,000 for it, and they'll develop it. You know, you got a police department that costs $6.5 million. You got a fire department that costs $4.1 million. It's $1,750,000 for the police department, and it's, I think, 1.8 for the fire department. When I took office, they were collecting $8.75 million. With the debt to service, it cost $14 million to run the city. So where was it going? They took $4 million out of the sewage fund, put it in the general fund. That's how they made payroll. Wasn't the right thing to do, but it was a popular thing to do. We straightened that all out. We balanced the budget, and we give $1 million back in the tax increase, and if God's willing, I intend to give another $1 million back at the end of this year. So, will we ever be the same? We're going to have to work toward it. The harder you work, the better it looks. The more homes we build, the more businesses that comes into town. It all has to do with how much money we can raise in revenue and the grants. A lot of our police, I mean, Jason Cox has got over $500,000 or $600,000 in grants this year.
You have 30 seconds.
So, yes, I foresee one day we'll be compared to others. If we regionalize, we can lower ours and they can help pick up the burden.
Okay, that will conclude the question part of the session here. We'll now give each of the candidates 3 minutes for their closing remarks. We'll start with Mayor Fike.
Sure you don't want to go first? In closing, I'd like to take this opportunity to again thank the editorial board for the invitation. I remember what Ronald Reagan said in the beginning of his second term, he's campaigning. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? I would certainly think so. The proof's in the pudding. Just to share a few of our accomplishments and goals. We took a serious deficit and turned it into a balanced budget. We put a full complement of firemen back to work with a $632,000 SAFER grant. We had 16 policemen when I took office. 2 of them were crippled. Now we have 23. In part, that has been accomplished with a combined total of over $500,000 in grant funding. Opened a countywide booking center with a $186,000 grant to provide 24/7 refuge at the police department. I received a $10,000 above baseline for the fire company to educate the people in the building in harm's way what to do when there's a fire. I got a baseline supplement for the police department. They never ever got it. I've gotten them $40,000+ a year ever since I've been in office. We brought Senior Life to Uniontown, a $3.5 million renovation. We built 30 new homes during my administration. $7 million, if you will. We brought Maple Gardens, a low-income 36-unit apartment building, $7.5 million development. 10 new homes on Maple Street, a $2 million development. Renovated all the city parks, maintained free lunch programs for the children. Demolished over 100+ blighted properties. Hired additional code enforcement staff. I say to you, is the proof not in the pudding? I plan to continue to work in building our tax base and revitalize our city. I pledge to continue to find ways to reduce our taxes so once again our city can be more affordable for all of us. I am committed to remaining financially responsible to those who we serve. You entrusted me to a very big responsibility,
and I try each and every day to never disappoint you. I am once again honored to be able to ask you for your support. And in expressing my gratitude to the citizens of Uniontown, I promise that I will continue to take my leadership style from Scripture. That is, to be a leader of all, one must first become a servant of all. I believe that the best way to lead is to serve. I've tried to serve you to the best of my ability during the past 4 years. And with your continued support, I welcome the opportunity to serve you again. Winston Churchill said it best: you make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give. Although I've worked hard and honestly all my life, I've been a blessed man in many ways. I want to give back to the city I care so deeply about, so all families can be proud to call Uniontown home. With that, I say thank you.
Okay.
I wish to thank the editorial board for this opportunity this evening. Tonight we've heard from both myself and the incumbent as to our ideas for the future of this city. Uniontown does have a future. One, that future stays on the same path that we're currently on. The other is one that's a bright future. It's one where businesses are moving into Uniontown. It's one where new families are moving into Uniontown. This is what I envision for Uniontown. I will work hard to change the perception of Uniontown and the surrounding communities. I will work hard going out, talking with businesses, talking with business leaders, discussing and coming up with new ideas that will allow us to bring in new businesses to fill up our storefronts in downtown. And after that's done, to move down to the surrounding areas, the surrounding communities within the city, and bringing businesses to them. Uniontown has no grocery store anymore. It's a burden on our seniors that live in Mount Vernon Towers, White Swan Towers, and the other senior high-rises in town. I will work to bring in a local grocery store for downtown. I will work to lower our sewage bills. We pay more than South Union, we pay more than North Union. Shouldn't be the case. It's one authority, we should be all the same. Our garbage is higher than North Union. Our garbage is higher than South Union. That needs to be brought more in line with the surrounding communities. This too, I shall work hard to do. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight. But through careful planning, through careful marketing, through careful budgeting, Uniontown will thrive again. And that is my pledge, that I will work hard to see that it comes true. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank both of the candidates for agreeing to meet with the editorial board tonight. And I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you later.